The human who refused to bow. The twin sons of Euralia shone down on the massive palace made of golden stone and glowing crystal. It was the day of the royal gathering. All species from nearby star systems were invited. Warriors, leaders, and diplomats gathered to show respect to the Euralian Empire, and especially to the royal family. Everyone bowed. Everyone except one. His name was Jack Carson, a human envoy from Earth. He stood tall, wearing a simple black uniform, his hands behind his back, his face calm. He did not kneel, did not lower his eyes. He simply looked forward, straight at the throne where Princess Vailna sat. Gasps echoed in the hall. "Who does he think he is?" whispered a tall insectoid ambassador. "He dares insult our princess?" growled a lizard-like general. Guards tightened their grip on their plasma spears. One even took a step forward, but Princess Vailna raised her hand. "Stop," she said. Her voice was calm, smooth like flowing water, but with power behind it. The hall froze. She stood up slowly, her long silver robe flowing behind her. Her skin was a soft lavender hue glowing under the light. Her eyes, bright green and sharp like a hawk's, locked onto Jack's. "You are the human envoy?" she asked. Jack nodded once. "I am." "Why did you not bow?" she asked, her voice curious, not angry. Jack's answer was simple. "I bow to no one, not because I am disrespectful, but because I believe respect is earned, not demanded." The room trembled with murmurs again. The princess took a few steps forward. She stopped in front of him, shorter than Jack, but glowing with royal grace. She tilted her head, studying him like a strange artifact. "No one has ever spoken to me like that," she said. Jack smiled faintly. "I'm not like anyone you've met." A brief silence passed. Then, unexpectedly, the princess smiled. "Interesting," she whispered. The tension in the room didn't vanish. If anything, it deepened. Because now, instead of being angry, the princess seemed amused. She turned back to the court. Let the ceremony continue. Jack was led to his place at the round diplomatic table, but the eyes of the court didn't leave him. Nobles whispered, warriors stared, advisors frowned. Jack sat down quietly observing everything. His face looked relaxed, but his mind was sharp. He knew what he had done, and he knew what it meant. He had just made himself the center of attention in the most dangerous room in the galaxy. The royal banquet began. Strange alien dishes were brought to the tables, glowing fruits, steaming meats, floating crystal drinks. Jack tasted a few politely, but his focus stayed on the room and the princess. Princess Vailna didn't speak to anyone for a long time, but she kept looking at him. Finally, when the dessert was served, she stood up again. "I have an announcement," she said. The hall fell silent. "The ritual of unity must begin," she continued. "To prevent the coming war between our worlds, a bond must be formed between Euralia and the Terran Federation." Murmurs started again. Everyone knew the ritual. It was ancient, symbolic, a temporary union, almost like marriage, between a royal and a diplomat, a way to tie two powers together. Most thought she would choose the Terran ambassador stationed on her planet for the past 5 years. Instead, she pointed directly at Jack. "I choose this human, Jack Carson." Dead silence. Even Jack blinked in surprise. He sat up straighter. "What?" he asked. Princess Vailna smiled again. "You refused to bow. You spoke your mind. I want someone real by my side for this ritual, not another puppet." Jack stood slowly. "This was not part of the deal," he said. "No," she replied, "but it is now." One of the alien nobles stood in protest. "He's not worthy. He insulted our traditions." The princess turned sharply. "Then maybe our traditions need to change." More gasps. Jack looked at the princess. He could see something in her eyes, something deeper than politics. She looked tired, trapped. Maybe she wasn't just playing a game. He took a deep breath. "If I refuse?" he asked. "Then your people and mine continue toward war," she said. He paused, then gave the smallest nod. "For peace," he said. "For peace," she repeated. The room remained frozen in shock, but deep inside something powerful had just shifted, and Jack knew this was only the beginning. The ritual of choice. The next morning, Jack awoke to silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, waiting kind. The kind that wrapped around you, like cold fog before a storm. Outside the crystal window of his guest chamber, the skies of Euralia had turned purple. That meant one thing: ritual day. He had barely slept. Not because of the alien bed, he'd fought on worse. It was the decision, the offer. The princess had picked him, out of all the diplomats, warriors, and rulers. Why him, as he dressed in the ceremonial robe left for him, deep blue with silver lining? He noticed something odd. A faint shimmer on his wrist. A mark. His fingers brushed it. It glowed faintly. "What the hell?" he muttered. The door suddenly hissed open. A royal assistant stepped in. She was tall, with golden eyes and scales like armor. "The mark has accepted you," she said simply. "You must come now." "Mark?" Jack asked, following her. "The bond of unity. It formed during your agreement with the princess. You are linked." "I didn't touch her." "You didn't need to. She spoke the right. You gave your word. The bond knows." Jack felt a cold weight settle in his chest. He'd read about such things but thought they were ancient myths, self-binding energy tattoos from old alien magic. He didn't believe in that stuff, until now. He was led down endless corridors into the Grand Dome. Thousands of beings had gathered. Rows of alien royals, scholars, soldiers. Holographic cameras hovered in the air, broadcasting live across the galaxy. And there in the center stood Princess Vielna. She wore a silver ceremonial dress, long and flowing like starlight. A glowing crest floated above her head, symbol of royal blood. But her eyes, sharp and clear, locked onto Jack. She didn't smile. She studied him. When Jack entered the central platform, all noise faded. Even the smallest cough disappeared. Vielna raised one hand. "The ritual of choice begins," she said. A deep echoing sound rang out, an ancient horn blown by a creature with 5 mouths. One by one, names of leaders from other planets were called out. All were dismissed. They had already formed other alliances. Then her voice rang out across the dome. "I, Princess Vielna of House Surental, choose Jack Carson of Earth." Gasps, shouts. Even the observers watching from thousands of light years away were stunned. The High Elder of the court stepped forward. "Do you, human, accept this bonding, knowing it will connect your life to hers until the ritual is broken or completed?" Jack looked around. Every eye was on him. Every weapon pointed, if not literally, then politically. He felt the weight of 2 civilizations on his shoulders. He took a breath. "I accept," he said. Instantly, the mark on his wrist burned, just for a second. Then something strange happened. A soft glow surrounded the two of them. It was not just light. It was energy. Living. Breathing. Vielna's face changed. The calm royal mask cracked for just a second. Her eyes widened, not with fear, but something else. Surprise. She whispered only loud enough for him to hear. "You weren't supposed to be compatible." "What does that mean?" Jack whispered back. But before she could reply, the dome lit up with firework-like lights. The bond had accepted, and now there was no turning back. As the crowd clapped politely, though some clearly forced, it was obvious this ritual had done more than form a peace tie. It had awakened something old, something powerful, something dangerous. That night in the palace garden, Princess Vielna met Jack alone under a glowing tree. She didn't wear her crown. "Why did you really accept?" she asked. Jack didn't answer right away. He looked up at the alien stars. So many more than Earth's sky. You looked trapped, he said, like someone who needed an ally, not a puppet. She turned away, but not before he saw it. Her eyes shimmered, not with tears, with something else. Respect? And maybe a beginning of something neither of them fully understood. The alien court's fury. The court chamber of Euralia, usually a place of calm speeches and noble games, was boiling with tension. The moment the ritual of choice was complete, the storm had begun. Princess Vailna stood on the platform beside Jack Carson. Her hand was raised in formal posture, her face calm. But inside her heart thundered. She could feel the weight of every stare, every breath in the room. The silence broke like glass. "He's a primitive," shouted Lord Tharn, his forearms waving in anger. "A human, from a war-born species. You dare bind our royal blood to him?" Others joined in. "He disrespected our customs. He refused to bow. He's dangerous." The High Council's circle of elders buzzed with voices. Some stood, some pounded their staffs. One elderly noble even collapsed, overwhelmed by the scandal. Jack stood silently, watching it all with arms crossed. He didn't look afraid. He looked like a soldier, calm in the chaos. Velna raised her hand again. Enough. No one listened. So she stepped forward and did something no one expected. She shouted, "Enough!" Her voice echoed, powered by the royal crest on her robe. The chamber fell into an uneasy quiet. "Did you forget that the ritual of choice belongs to me?" she said coldly. "Not to the council. Not to tradition. Me." The nobles stiffened. They weren't used to this version of Velna. "I have chosen. The bond accepted. If you have a problem..." She looked around slowly. "You can take it up with the old gods." Lord Tharn clenched his jaws. "This is treason." "No," she replied. "It's evolution." Jack finally spoke. "You're all afraid of me. That's fine. Be afraid. But know this. I didn't come here to destroy your world. I came to stop one." Gasps followed. The princess turned to him, curious. "What do you mean?" Jack glanced at the holographic display above the court. It showed flickers of Earth, Euralia, and a third red mark blinking at the edge of the map. A third force is coming, one that doesn't care about your crowns or rituals, one that wants to burn everything down. The court went silent. Jack walked toward the center of the circle. "You call me primitive, but Earth has survived what most planets haven't. We don't run. We fight. We protect our own. If I'm your enemy, prove it. If not, stop wasting time." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, High Elder Vish, one of the oldest, her skin like stone, leaned forward. "We will test him," she said. The princess's eyes narrowed. "Test?" Vish nodded. "If he is to wear our bond, he must survive." "The court's trial," Jack asked. "What kind of trial?" "Not one of words. One of blood," she replied. The next morning, Jack was taken to the Hall of Echoes, a training arena buried under the palace. Stone walls, cold air, ancient statues of warriors long gone. In the middle, a pit. "Your task is simple," said I. The guard. "Survive the trial beast." Jack cracked his neck. "You guys really love traditions, huh?" The gate opened. From the shadows came a low growl. Then metal scraped. A huge creature stepped forward, part machine, part beast. Glowing red eyes, a tail like a whip, and armor plating down its back. Princess Vailna stood behind the glass wall, her fists clenched. She whispered to herself, "Please don't die." "Jack!" The beast roared and charged. Jack didn't move at first. He studied the steps, the ground, the creature's timing. Then, just before impact, he rolled aside and slammed his elbow into the beast's exposed joint. Sparks flew. The crowd above watched in silence. No one expected the human to last more than 10 seconds. He lasted 10 minutes. Then finally, with one final scream, he leapt up, pulled a broken spear from the wall, and drove it into the beast's glowing eye. The creature fell, silent, dead. The chamber was stunned. Princess Vailna rushed to meet him as the gate opened. "You're hurt," she whispered. Jack, bloody but smiling, replied, "Just a scratch. Did I pass?" She stared at him. "You didn't just pass." She stepped closer. "You made them afraid of choosing wrong." Shadows behind the throne. The trial beast was dead. Jack Carson stood bloodied, bruised, but alive, and that scared people more than if he had lost. Behind palace walls, the whispers grew louder. The human survived. "He's stronger than we thought. What if this is all part of a plan?" The next few days were quiet on the outside. The court pretended to celebrate the success of the ritual of unity. There were speeches, gifts, and public smiles. But under the surface, something cold stirred. Princess Vailna felt it. Her own advisors avoided eye contact. Some rooms fell, silent, when she walked in. Servants passed her without bowing, and at night, the shadows moved differently. She wasn't sure if it was fear, jealousy, or hate, but she knew something dangerous was rising. One evening, after a small celebration, feast. Jack sat on a balcony overlooking the glowing gardens. His arm was wrapped in bandages. A glass of alien fruit wine sat beside him, untouched. He stared at the stars. Quiet, thoughtful. The door behind him opened. Light footsteps. Princess Vailna joined him. "You're not sleeping," she said softly. "Neither are you," Jack replied. They stood side by side, the cool wind brushing against them. "I heard someone tried to poison your drink earlier today," he added, without looking at her. She froze. "How did you know?" "I didn't. But I just watched your reaction," Jack said. "Now I do." She sighed, shaking her head with a small smile. "Humans are sharper than they look." Jack turned to her. "Someone wants to end this bond. End me. Maybe even you." She didn't answer. Instead, she looked out into the garden. "There are people who only see me as a title," she said, "not a person. To them, I am a weapon, a symbol, never a woman with choices." "And now you chose me," Jack said. "That's why they're angry," she replied. They stood in silence again. The stars above blinked like eyes watching. "I think someone inside your own palace wants me dead," Jack said at last. Vailna's expression hardened. "Then let's find them." The two began to work in secret. Vailna ordered her most trusted bodyguard, Corin, to fake a report saying Jack had been moved to an off-world medical center. Jack, meanwhile, stayed hidden in a forgotten part of the palace, the old war bunker beneath the throne chamber. There he monitored the guards' shifts, palace schedules, and intercepted messages with a small Terran device hidden in his boot. 3 nights later, they found something. A signal. Short, coded and strange, was sent from inside the palace to a remote warship in orbit. The message was clear. Bond unstable. Human target open. Proceed with Protocol Z. Jack stared at the message. "They're planning to assassinate me during the next public event." Vailna's face turned pale. "The moonlight ceremony," she whispered. "It's in 2 days. Everyone will be watching. I'll be expected to stand beside you, under the stars." Jack nodded. "Perfect time for a sniper. Or a drone." She looked at him. "We could cancel it." He shook his head. "No, we don't show fear. We show them that even under threat, the bond stands strong." The night of the moonlight ceremony arrived. The great platform rose high above the gardens, floating by gravity lifts. Thousands gathered below, watching from across the empire via holoscreens. Princess Vailna stood in her glowing ceremonial gown. Jack wore black battle dress with silver trim, the colors of peace and war combined. They stood together under the UI light of the twin moons. Then, a soft buzzing. Jack heard it first. His eyes darted to the trees. A shadow moved. Fast. "Down!" he yelled, pulling Vailna behind the platform's column. A flash of light passed where her head had just been. A sniper bolt. Screams below. Guards drew weapons. Another shot fired, this time toward Jack, but it never reached him. Corin, the loyal bodyguard, jumped in the way and took the hit. He fell. Jack rolled forward, drawing his sidearm. He fired once, twice, toward the trees. A cry echoed, then silence. Guards swarmed in. The assassin, part of the palace guard himself, was caught trying to escape using a cloaked pod. Vaelna rushed to Corin's side. His breathing was shallow. "Why did you do that?" she whispered. Corin smiled faintly. "Because you finally chose for yourself." He closed his eyes. Later that night, Jack and Vaelna stood alone again. "I told you this bond wouldn't be easy," she said quietly. "And I told you," Jack replied. "I don't run from shadows." She looked at him, then slowly took his hand. "From now on, we face them together." Jack nodded. In the darkness behind the throne, more enemies waited, but now the shadows were being hunted too, by them, together. The trial of loyalty. The palace was still grieving the loss of Corin, the loyal bodyguard who gave his life during the moonlight ceremony. His ashes had not even cooled, yet the court moved quickly, too quickly. Jack noticed it first, fewer guards, fewer eyes watching the princess, and more eyes watching him. 3 days after the assassination attempt, Jack was summoned to the Chamber of Truth, a place known for judgment, not justice. He entered the vast hall. It was dark, cold, and carved from stone older than Earth itself. Glowing blue veins ran through the walls. The ceiling above shimmered with a sky of artificial stars. On the high bench sat the High Council of Eurelia, 11 figures in tall robes, eyes hidden behind ceremonial masks. The eldest among them raised a long silver staff. "Human Jack Carson," the voice echoed, "you are charged with orchestrating the attack on the princess and plotting to take the throne." Jack stared at them, stunned. "You think I tried to kill her?" Murmurs filled the room. "Your arrival brought chaos," said one of the masked judges. "You survived the beast too easily. You rose too fast, earned her favor too soon. You are not one of us." Jack clenched his fist. He could smell the setup. "This is a political play," he said. "Someone doesn't want peace between our people." The head judge's voice rang out again. "If the princess speaks in your defense, the trial ends. But to do so, she must declare a full soul bond, permanent and sacred." The room fell silent. Jack swallowed hard. If Vaelna spoke now, it would mean she wasn't just standing beside him for a treaty. It would mean she chose him, not as a tool, not as a symbol, but as a life-mate. He turned, eyes searching for her. She wasn't there. The clock above ticked. 1 minute. 2. 5. Jack's chest tightened. Where was she? Had they silenced her? Threatened? Her? The judge raised his staff again. "Princess Vaelna, do you speak?" Still no reply. Jack exhaled. "Then let's get this over with. I'll stand for myself." Suddenly, the doors burst open. Princess Vaelna stepped in. Her robe was torn. She was out of breath. 2 bruises bloomed along her arms. Her eyes, though fierce, shook with emotion. "I was held back," she said. "They tried to stop me." She walked past the guards, past the whispers, straight to Jack. "I speak," she said. And then she turned to the court. "Let it be known," she declared, voice shaking the walls, "that I choose this human not for diplomacy, not for strategy, but for who he is." She looked at Jack. Loyal, brave, honest, and the only person who has never used me. Gasps filled the room. She stepped forward and reached for Jack's hand. "I declare full soul bond." A light burst between them, gold and white, rising into the air like twin stars. The sacred mark on their wrists glowed and linked, forming a connection no one could break. Jack looked at her, stunned. "You didn't have to do that." I wanted to, she whispered. The judges stood slowly, silent. One by one, they bowed. Not to tradition, not to law, to the bond. Later that night in the quiet garden, Jack and Vailna sat under the same tree where their alliance had begun. You risked everything, Jack said. Your crown, your power. She smiled softly. You risked your life. I just caught up. He looked down at their linked marks. So what now? She leaned back, her voice calm but firm. Now they know. I'm not their puppet. And you're not a stranger. She paused. But someone out there still wants you gone, and they won't stop. Jack nodded. Then let them come. She raised an eyebrow. Why? He smirked. Because now, they have to go through us. War at the gates. The news came just before dawn. A low alarm echoed through the palace walls. A sound not heard in over a century. It was no ceremony. No court signal. It was a war code. Princess Vailna rushed to the command tower, her heart racing. Jack was already there, standing beside a glowing tactical map. Around them, commanders barked orders. Soldiers ran past with weapons and gear. The red dots on the screen were moving fast. Enemy ships. Hundreds of them. Jack looked at her. They've surrounded the outer moons. Vailna's voice was steady. Who are they? Admiral Voss, her chief defense officer, answered with a hard tone. The Zarn Dominion. The same ones who've been watching us fall apart from within. They waited for this, for the court to be divided. And now they think we're weak, Jack said. The Admiral nodded. And they're wrong. But we're not ready for this size of assault. Jack studied the map. What if we draw them into a trap? Let them think we're retreating, then strike from behind the rings of Gelos. The Admiral looked shocked. That's not a bad plan. Princess Vailna placed her hand on the table. Make it happen. I will command the defense fleet from the Sky Fortress, and Jack... She turned to him. You stay here, you're injured. The soul bond will keep us connected. Jack shook his head. No. Everyone looked at him. I won't sit behind walls while you bleed for your people, he said. I've led squads into worse. I'll fly. You're not a soldier anymore, Vailna said quietly. He stepped closer. No, but I'm your bondmate. And your shield. Let me fight. There was a long silence, then she whispered, You might die. He gave a tired smile. Then I'll die beside the right cause. Hours later, the sky was filled with fire. Jack stood inside a sleek Eurelian starfighter, strapped in with armor that barely fit his human frame. His co-pilot, a sharp-eyed alien named Drex, glanced at him nervously. You sure about this, human? Drex asked. These aren't practice dummies. Jack grinned. Good. I hate practice. Above them, the princess's warship, the Starlance, shone like a blade in the night. The Zarn ships came fast. Their weapons were brutal. Their ships, like floating claws. Explosions lit up the edge of space. The trap began. Eurelian ships faked a retreat. The Zarn followed, bloodthirsty. Then Jack gave the signal. Now! From behind the frozen rings of the outer moon, hidden Eurelian cruisers burst forward, cannons blazing. The enemy was caught in the middle. Vailna's voice rang in his comms. Perfect timing, Jack. He laughed. Told you I had a few tricks left. But the joy didn't last. A blast hit their wing. Jack's fighter spun, alarms screaming. They were going down, fast, toward a rocky moon below. The impact was brutal. Jack crawled, from the wreckage, blood dripping down his face. His co-pilot didn't survive. The world around him was quiet, cold, a dead moon. Then he heard the sound, heavy steps, enemy soldiers, Zarn warriors, tall and armored, with glowing eyes and bone swords. Jack grabbed his sidearm. He didn't run. He stood. They charged. Meanwhile, Vailna felt it. Through the bond, pain, rage, fear, but no surrender. She slammed her fist on the command table. Find him! Her officers said nothing. They knew it was hopeless, but she didn't care. She took her personal ship and flew into the battle herself. On the moon below, Jack fought. 1, 2, 3 enemies down. But there were too many. He was bleeding, his arm half dead. Then, a blast of light from the sky. Vaelna landed like fire. She stepped out, twin plasma blades in her hands. Together they fought back to back, princess and human, one warrior. One protector. One bond. After the last Zarn fell, she fell to her knees beside Jack. "You stupid brave man," she whispered. He coughed a laugh. "Told you I'm not good at staying behind." She placed her hand on his wound. The soul bond glowed. Their hearts synced, their pain shared, their strength merged. The war wasn't over, but the message was clear. The human wasn't just her consort. He was her sword, her choice, her equal. And the galaxy was beginning to understand what that meant. The crown and the kiss, the battle was won. The enemy fleet shattered. The Zarn retreated, limping into deep space, their pride broken. But the cost was heavy. Euralian ships burned in the upper atmosphere. The palace banners flew at half height. Streets were filled with silence, not celebration. Inside the healing chambers, Jack Carson lay unconscious. His chest was wrapped in white bandages, his breathing slow but steady. Princess Vaelna sat beside him, her eyes never leaving his face. She hadn't left the room in 2 days. She didn't speak. She didn't cry, she simply waited. Waited for the human who had refused to bow. Who had chosen her not as a ruler, but as a woman, and she was terrified he might never wake up. Outside, the court gathered in the celestial hall for the most important event of their generation. The coronation. The crown of Euralia, worn by queens, for 10,000 years, was to be passed down at last. But the room was filled with unease. "She's still not here," one noble whispered. "She puts a human before her people," another grumbled. "This will destroy us," said a third. "Unless," the High Council whispered amongst themselves. Then Lord Tharn stood. "If she does not arrive within the hour," he said coldly, "the council will name a new ruler. Tradition must not be broken for sentiment." The crowd murmured in agreement. Back in the chamber, a weak voice whispered, "I hate lying down this long." Vaelna's head snapped toward him. Jack's eyes opened slowly. His lips curled into a small smile. "You came back," she breathed. "I promised, didn't I?" he said, voice rough. She touched his cheek gently. "The coronation is starting. They're ready to take my crown." Jack struggled to sit up. "Then let's ruin their day." The great doors of the celestial hall flew open. The nobles turned. Hush fell over the chamber. There stood Princess Vaelna, regal and calm, but with fire in her eyes. Beside her, supported slightly on one side, was Jack Carson, still in half armor, bruised but very much alive. Gasps spread like wildfire. "They said you'd be dead," someone blurted. Jack grinned. "I heard that too, didn't take." The royal platform was lit. The High Elder stood holding the crown. "Princess Vaelna," she announced. "Are you ready to accept your role as Empress of Euralia?" Vaelna stepped forward, and then paused. "I am," she said, "but I will not stand alone." She reached behind her and pulled Jack beside her. "I choose to rule with him," she said loudly. "Not as a figurehead, as my equal." Chaos erupted. "You can't do this. He is not of royal blood. He's not even of this world." She raised a hand, and the room fell silent. "The soul bond speaks louder than blood. He fought for this world. He bled for it. He stood with me when everyone else stood against me." She turned to Jack. "And now I ask, will you rule beside me, not as my servant, but as my mate?" Jack looked at her for a long moment, then he smiled. "Took you long enough." And in front of the entire empire, he kissed her. Not as a guard, not as a consort, as her partner. As the soul bond glowed again, warmer, brighter than ever, The crown floated down from the hands of the elder. It split in two. One part rested on her head. The other shifted shape, molded by ancient magic, and settled on Jack's. Brow two crowns, one rule. For the first time in Eurelian history, the empire was ruled not by power, but by choice. Later, as they stood on the high balcony looking over the glowing city, Jack leaned close to her. So, does this mean I have to learn all the court rules now? Valna laughed for the first time in weeks. No, she said. It means we make new ones. He looked out at the stars. Good, he said, because I think the galaxy's about to learn what happens when you underestimate a human.